Namanda, Vits Namanda, Vits Namanda, Vits Namanda, Namanda, Namanda.
Good morning. Welcome. And everybody's been here before. I don't have to introduce us, right? Yes. Okay. We will start with a moment of quiet meditation.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Namanda Butsu.
Please join me for the three treasures on page 8. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming members in true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Next is Sutra Chanting, Junirai, page 65.
Junirai. The Gatha Junirai was written by Nagarjuna, the first of the 7 masters of Jodo Shinshu. It expresses eloquently the depth of Nagarjuna's gratitude to the Buddha Amida. 대슈 텐인 쇼규효 아미다센 요소규솜 사이힘이 매우한나고 무료의 시슈리네요 온지기신 쇼뇨센노 샤마타교뇨소부 요모그쇼냐그쇼렌게 오가 쇼라이 미라솜 맨센넨 쇼요만갑 이고윤요센니지갑 쇼요텐 그시라 오가 조유라 이미라솜 간논 조유다이 간시유지 슈주메우솔홀솔공 노으 그게 노카마케우만 고가 조라 이미다솜 무미문 골쇼쇼 슈도크케우켓뇨고그 쇼사리야 그도그지사이 고가 졸라 이미다솜 지볼묘사슈 무료쇼마졸삼담 이쇼슈졸간미기심 고가 졸라 이미다솜 곤타이 홀켄 시쇼켄 젠곤 쇼졸메우다이사 이요히사 졸뇨센노 고가 졸라 이미라솜 지볼쇼라이 쇼드시 겐겐진스시암나 센골손겐졸그뇨 고가 졸라 이미다솜 쇼을쇼을가돌 야근요 수이갑대뇨로 이슈세포묘지 고가 조라이미다솜 이손무셋무라그뇨 야금은요니나그도흐 슈닌시신교희손 고가 졸라이미라솜 이손무료홀벤효 무쇼슈아그지시기 올졸흐타이시보다이 고가 졸라이미라솜 가셋히손 그도그지 슈센무해요가이스 쇼쇼샤 에세슈 조쇼 의희고 나왕다뷰 나왕다뷰 남암다뷰 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 감리시그도그 묘돌세이사이 노을혼보다이시 어조흐 아 Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Namo Amida Butsu.
Next, it's our great privilege to have a Dharma talk by Reverend CJ.
I'd like to begin my Dharma talk with a passage from our founder, Venerable Shinran. Please join me in Gassho. The light of compassion that grasps us, illumines and protects us always. The darkness of our ignorance is already broken through. Still, the clouds and mists and of greed and desire, anger and hatred, cover as always the sky of true and real Shinjin. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists there is brightness, not dark. When one realizes Shinjin, seeing and revering and attaining great joy, one immediately leaps crosswise, closing off the 5 evil courses. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. This is my absolute favorite passage from Shinran. And it comes from our founder, Venerable Shinran's Shoshinge, or Hymn of True Faith. And it describes a unique understanding of who we are from his own Pure Land Buddhist perspective. We'll come back to this passage at the end of my talk today. But for now, I wanted to discuss a concept of Buddhist ontology that I brought up last week during our first study session of the Buddhist philosophy series, where we considered the nature of the self and how that differs from popular ontologies that we encounter every day. So I'm taking your feedback that we should talk about some of the concepts that were in that discussion. Thank you for the feedback. Yes, I remembered. So just as a quick review, ontology is a branch of philosophy concerned with the nature of the self. And so today, I wanted to consider the origins of this particular branch of Buddhist philosophy via a particular word or concept called Anatman, or Muga in Japanese. The idea of Anatman is foundational to Buddhism and is found virtually in all lineages of Buddhism. It's often discussed in isolation as a Buddhist concept, though. So today, I'd like to ensure that we understand this as a critique of a popular Hindu philosophy called Atman, which represents a true or eternal self, or the self-existent essence of each individual, and is commonly translated as soul. Anatman, then, is a denial of this particular aspect of Buddhist or Hindu ontology, which also includes, excuse my pronunciation, I am not an expert in Sanskrit, ahamkara, or ego, citta, or mind, prakriti, a shared primal essence. Those are all aspects of the self according to Hindu ontology. I'm not a specialist in other Dharmic religions, and so that's as deep as I will get in Hindu ontology. But our focus is on Buddhism. So I like to think that we can see notions of the self are still quite multifaceted in Hindu ontology and include more than just the notions of a soul or a mind. So let's look at the self in Buddhism. I know that in popular expressions of Buddhism, it's common to see people say things like there's no soul or no self in Buddhism. And while that may be true, Buddhists have developed a very complex understanding of ontology, or what the self is, that goes far beyond just the idea of no self or no soul, which is the translation of Anatman. You see, there's a notion of something like a self, or a conventional arrangement or heap of things that we call me and you. And that's called the 5 skandha. These are what Buddhists understand to be the 5 aggregates or heaps of clinging. Again, my pronunciation, pardon that. The first is form, material image, impression, rupa. The second is sensation or feelings perceived from form, vedana. The third is perceptions, samjanya. The fourth, mental activity or formations, sankhara. And the fifth is consciousness, vijnana. When we think about ourselves in this way, you could argue that we might feel a sense of freedom, perhaps a little bit less judgment, because all of those things about ourselves can change over time. They don't always align with one another. And so there's a bit of freedom in that thought. I'm more than my feelings or my perceptions, my thoughts, and so many other things. If we see ourselves in this way, we might feel a little bit more flexible to learn, to unlearn, to grow, and to change. Similarly, if we see others that way, as complex and made up of multiple complicated aspects, then we might be more forgiving and understanding of those people. We might even find ways to relate to them rather than simply justifying our thoughts of them as evil or bad or good or mean. It gives us a freedom to see the complexities of who we are as individuals. Coming back to Jodo Shinshu, with this sort of historical understanding of Buddhist ontology and Anatman in mind, I'd like to look back at our tradition. In the Gosandai, our opening quote, I shared a word called Shinjin, which is an aspect of awakening to reality in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. Fundamentally, Buddhism is about transforming our everyday lives at the roots, seeing the world in a drastically different way from how we usually are conditioned as human beings. In Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, as we learn more about the Buddhist teachings and internalize them into our worldviews, the more we understand the Buddha Dharma, then our life begins to change. Shinjin is an expression of that change or awakening. And Master Shandao from China expresses that change in his perspective of deep mind, how we understand ourselves and others. On the one hand, we come to see ourselves as unenlightened with much to learn. Our karma, or the circumstances of our lives, limits our ability to grow and learn and to pursue ultimate awakening. And because of that, we've been transmigrating the sea of birth and death, of suffering, into the limitless past. We might see this strand of many aggregates, many different selves, many different formations of skandhas that go back into the beginningless past. That first side, though, the left side, might seem very pessimistic if we only look at that on its own as how we understand ourselves. And it certainly is. But on the other side, the right column, when we reach that stage of deep mind, we also believe deeply that we are grasped by boundless wisdom and compassion. We sometimes call this wisdom and compassion Buddha. And in truth, it goes far beyond form or conception, but this force of awakening holds us in its heart, calling us to awaken. Perhaps even because of our seemingly endless limitations, our limitedness, that force of wisdom and compassion, of Buddha, of awakening, pursues us out of love and out of mercy. This is who we are in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, the objects of limitless love. And with that, I'd like to conclude my Dharma talk for today. Please join me in Gassho as I share the words of Master Shinran once more. The light of compassion that grasps us, illumines, and protects us always. The darkness of our ignorance is already broken through. Still, the clouds and mists of greed and desire, anger and hatred, cover as always the sky of true and real Shinjin. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists, there's brightness, not dark. When one realizes Shinjin, seeing and revering and attaining great joy, one immediately leaps crosswise, closing off the 5 evil courses. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Okay, now with that, I'd like to conclude our service for today. Thank you very much, Catherine, for being our chairperson. Thank you to everyone who's here in person and everyone online. I see you on Zoom. Thanks for coming.